How do you think that the smaller companies are going to be able to compete when one company using an AI tool is pumping out 40 blogs in a month, and then there's a small company maybe doing their 2 blogs trying to keep up with that from a local standpoint? Do you believe that AI is going to let those small companies compete with the large companies at scale?
I think to some degree, small companies like working with small companies. So, I run a small agency. We have 22, 25 employees at any given time. And I work with small businesses, right? So it's a totally different experience than working with a Yext or a huge national company. I don't know, it's just a different experience. So, and I think, when you look at customer retention, it's a different game, right? They're going to churn, 60% of their customers every year? I'm not going to churn that, right? Because I have customers that have been with me for 29 years, right? AI is just going to make us more efficient and better at our jobs.
If you know that like in Q4, one of the researchers showed that 74% of content worldwide was generated by AI. Like, it's that extreme. So I don't think that the agencies will fight back against it. The question is, what is the level of depth of that piece of content? What is the level of that part is part of the bigger strategy? Do you want to actually create 40 pieces of content every day because you're going to be starting to do cannibalization for all of the other things related to SEO?
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of SEO On Air. Excited to have 2 guests with us that are kind of focusing on one specific topic today, and it is AI and just everything that's changing within AI. So I think that we've talked a lot about this on the podcast. We've had a lot of agencies give us their opinion, but you two seem to have spent more time and more resources than many to make sure that you're understanding the changes that are going on in the industry. So I'm really excited to hear your opinions, but also for other agencies and our listeners to hear and learn more about what's the modern take on marketing with AI. So I'll give you each a chance to introduce yourselves. Give yourself a little bit of a background so people know why they should trust your opinion, what your marketing agency is really doing. Starting with Tom, tell me a little bit about your background and what your agency does.
Sure. So my name is Tom Malesic. My agency is AISEO And I started this in 1997 when no one even knew what a website was. So it's really evolved and grown from there. Our target customer is a small business owner who really doesn't have internal resources. So we have focused predominantly in the past on website, SEO, Google Ads, social media. And with AI, we started to use all these AI tools internally. And now I have a video AI cloning technology that we help small business owners create videos using clones. So no more being in front of a camera.
Yeah, I was really excited about that because all the smaller, like the agencies that work with small customers, they tend to have a really hard time getting their customer to ever record a video or have the time to give that available. I think they often say their contractors are on site working and they don't have time to stop and record a video. So I'm excited about that resource being available for small businesses. On the flip side, Gilad, give us a view of what you guys are doing more for like the national brands.
For sure. So my name is Gilad. I'm the CEO and founder of Moburst. We've been around the last 12 years. We are helping our clients to overachieve their growth goals. And with that, we kind of helped, just in Q4, for example, we onboarded 2 Fortune 10 companies that chose us for their marketing and growth. So we help a lot of different types of companies, and we had the pleasure of working with some of the category leaders on so many different niches in lots of different verticals. And I guess that the reason that I'm here today is talking about like how we kind of revolutionized how we are doing things on the AI side, where we are kind of bringing on a complete revolution of how we are doing things compared to 2024, 25, and 26 are completely different, where we appointed the VP AI and a team of AI specialists to actually help to reshape every single team on the creative side, media side, strategy side, organic, PR, podcast, web design, web development, like for each and every one of those teams, and kind of basically breaking everything that we built and rebuilding them with the edge of AI, with 16 AI champions within the company that are basically rebuilding every single protocol about how to do the things that we used to do, and have experience of working about more than 1,000 brands in the last 12 years, and helping them basically to take all of those learnings and all of that data points and all of those learnings and reshape them based on how you can do things today with the edge of AI.
Our goal today is to unpack all of that so that our listeners can understand it in more depth. The first one I wanted to start with, as far as a question for both of you, we do see that a lot of agencies say they're using AI for their services, right? They're using it mostly for content. And I'm curious to hear what your guys' opinion is on the difference between agencies using AI and the ones that are operating with AI. How would you define the difference between companies using AI and those that are actually operating with AI?
Sure. So I can start there. I feel like we kind of done that type of transition. Like the first stage, when you're thinking about like using AI, great. Each and every team has their own ChatGPT and Gemini, Perplexity, and Claude, and have these type of custom GPTs, and you're using it, you're asking it questions, asking it to rate something that you've done, giving feedback about work that was done, prompting it to create for you content and things that are very manual. You're asking something, and then you're getting it in return something that hopefully is better than what you had in your vision, and refining different things, refining protocols, refining text, and things of that nature. I feel like where we kind of step up another notch above that is where we started to create tools that are creating that thing in push for us, and kind of not just taking that I'm asking it a question and it gives me an answer, but I'm asking it a question that actually brings a chain of automations that are actually becoming from one step to another to another to another, that actually gives you a deliverable that kind of gone through 360 degrees and being able to give you like a much bigger and broader outcome. So think about a website. You can ask for a website to kind of craft you content pieces for your blog, and then you're getting it and then refining it and refining it and refining it, saying it's good enough now, I'm going to be posting it on my blog. We came from that mode to a mode where I have a website that builds itself 48 new pieces of content every single day without me even needing to ask anything about that, and add all of the images and all of the different snippets of SEO based on that, and having those things that are basically building themselves every single day. And I can monitor that when I have a content manager on the other side that monitors and making sure that everything is legit, with all of the checks that we need to do and all of the things related to understanding that this is going in the right direction, but it does itself. Like, you created an agent that builds the next formats of content. So like, I feel like that the transition of asking or building something with that AI capability to something that builds itself and continue on optimizing itself based on the learnings about what are the articles that are getting indexed compared to the articles that are not getting indexed, and getting the feedback loop from what is getting on Google, what is getting on Gemini, what is getting on ChatGPT, and based on that feedback loop, understand what type of content it needs to be written in the next week, and how to refine that content in order to actually improve it even further. So I think that that's kind of the like starting point, or to actually get to a fully automated or very, very advanced semi-automated workflows, where you're getting not just asking something, getting it, copy and pasting it from one tool to another, but actually creating workflows that are generating you the results that you want to create.
Tom, I'm going to give you a second. I want to hear your thoughts. I even think about you being like the background of programming, and how there's essentially you're programming the company at that point to function with minimal. And I'm going to have to take a step back here and ask about the human input in a second, but I'm going to let Tom give his insights on that right away.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I haven't really seen too many people that are creating that level of automation. I mean, my background is much more in small businesses, right? And there's less resources. So it does make sense that with your enterprise level customers that you've got a little more time to create those automations. We're doing some of those basic automations, but I would be curious to hear more about, Gilad, how you're creating, how the website is recreating content on a regular basis. If we can hit that later, that'd be.
I actually think, for the sake of the listeners, many of us are going to have a similar question. And then, to be honest, Gilad, that's one of the things that I think that most of our agencies that haven't fully adopted it into their operations would probably question, and say that with their A/B testing of AI content versus human content and how much it's touched, would say that their AI content doesn't perform as well as the human written content, and that they might argue that what you're doing is actually not productive from a standpoint of performance, more that they would say you're just producing for the sake of producing. I would love to hear your defense to that. Yeah.
Yeah, again, no problem whatsoever. So basically, when we are creating and building those type of workflows, we are constantly taking the output and basically adding it into this type of a thing that checks, was it written by AI, yes or not? And then you're getting this type of a score from 60 human and 40% bot written, or 100% bot written. And as long as it doesn't pass our test of what we think that's going to be good enough to actually get indexed by Google and things of that nature, rewrite it, recreate it, repost it to the engine, get the score. If the score is good enough, then you can actually start creating the images and then actually uploading it. So you can create workflows that are actually really, really smart. And basically, okay, it will cost me another 2 cents of another token on ChatGPT or Gemini or what have you, and just play with it. Related to the results, I have to tell you that it really depends on the niche. There are places where you need that level of like human expertise that is like really world expert on writing on that specific niche, and they know the ins and outs, and they know the statistics, and they know the things that you cannot research about them, because they know exactly how to use it in a way that will give you the edge.
Can you give us examples of the industries that might need more human written content versus the?
So I think that any regulated industries, like we're working with a big mortgage company, for example, and that mortgage company, what you can say, what you are not allowed to say, what type of claims can you make, the case studies of people that actually use that loan compared to that loan, and what are the specific numbers that they had before. So refinancing, not refinancing, about this specific case or those specific case, how much cash you had in the house in order to be able to make the refinance to work for you, or not paying higher bills or lower, like credit card bills, that, hey, if I'm not taking a refinance on my house, I need to actually pay those credit card bills that are charging me 30% interest on my revolving debt, compared to refinancing and then actually saving on the month-to-month basis. A lot of those things, AI, I don't think that will be able to replace. Like, you need that additional input to understand how to tell the story, the storytelling, the actual stories of people that actually use that service. And that's something that is harder to replicate or to replace. But at the same time, I think that there are a lot of niches that are very, very broad. That if you are asking ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, or Claude, like for doing a deep research, you're getting now 30 pages from this and this and this and that. Now blend all of those together. Now you have crazy amount of insights. Now creating those type of 6 or 8 different personas, so to speak, on each and every one of those platforms with custom GPT. And they act as if you were a lawyer with 30 years from Pennsylvania that has having this and this and that. And now giving it this output and asking what does it feel like? Is it interesting? Is it not interesting? How you're actually rating it as relevant for you? And then based on that, getting those learnings, then now creating a content that will be fit for that persona. It's not something that is that difficult. It's many different stages. But think about AI as like, I'm thinking about it always as like a different team member. So I have the AI researcher just in charge of the research. And once that research is done, great. Now I'm moving it along to the content writer, right? Now that content writer is another AI engine that is doing that. And then I'm passing it along to the editor, and the editor is looking on different things. And I'm moving it to the SEO expert about how to write the titles and the descriptions and all of that, and kind of refining all of those elements. And then I'm moving it along, like, so it's a process that kind of moves between, let's say, 6 or 7 different agents. And then you have the agent that is actually posting it to WordPress and making sure that it's going live and is going on a pace that is always like in the same time of day. So it won't going to look like crazy hours at 3 a.m. You have a new blog post that was launched or things like nature, and kind of looking on the authenticity of it. Like, who is it coming from? Is it from that brand name, or is it from someone specifically from the brand that is a matter expert that was going through that? Are you sending it also to a draft for them, and they need to mark V next to it on Slack message, and when they are marking V next to it, only then it's being posted, or doing it all fully automated? You can decide how sophisticated you want those systems to be integrated one another, but most of it is like, it's N8N, it's a custom GPT, it's using the APIs of those platforms, it's using a lot of different extensions, Zapier and things like nature. Nothing here is like rocket science. You don't need to custom code something crazy. And just by connecting those systems in a smart way, you can create systems that are actually building new content for you, and building like automations that are actually giving you a score based on the criteria that are the most important for you. And I can tell you that the blog that we launched 5 months ago, when we started with those experiments and actually building it from the ground up, is already getting 20,000 hits, organic hits on a month-to-month basis. And it's like, it's our place that we are just doing experiments. Basically, we're not monetizing it. We're not playing with it too much. We set it up once. We optimize SEO. We optimize like each and every one of those automations. And right, like last month in December, it grows around 30% a month, like month over month, just from getting all of that new pieces of content to be written, 48 new posts a day, and it works beautifully. So you can ask yourself, hey, is SEO content written is done by a human being or by a bot? If you're doing it well enough, it can be done in a much massive scale with using those bots, and it still look very, very legit.
I agree with the if does it have to be human written or AI written? And we can put fully human written articles together and have it evaluate and say, is this AI? It'll come back and say it's AI, right? It's almost like the definition of AI content is really well written content. We haven't seen a detriment to AI written content in any way.
Why do you think so many people are resisting it then? Why do you think so many agencies are saying that their content needs to be written by human when you guys are clearly on the side that says good content is good content?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's because that's your craft. If your craft is being a professional copywriter, that's a machine just came in and took your job. So I do think just content overall is going to radically change. I try to liken it to, when we used to create art, we used paintbrushes or pens and colored pencils. And then Photoshop and Illustrator came out. And it's that transition. It's now you can do things on the computer that you used to have to do by hand. I have a good friend who is a book illustrator, and he used to do everything by hand, airbrushes, and he transitioned everything to being on the computer. And he took so many jobs away from other artists that were doing book covers because he could do it faster and he could edit it, where you can't edit the work that much. And I think that's what's really happening with content creation. If it becomes a threat to your profession, you're going to dig in, and I totally understand and appreciate that. And our writers have to go from being writers to being content editors. And it's a mental shift, and it's not always the easiest mental shift to do.
I couldn't agree more. I just think that when you're looking into this type of a process and this type of a shift on the paradigm, a lot of times if you are prompting something in the wrong way, or not in a really well optimized way, the content that you're going to get in return going to be really basic and very kind of a shitty type of content. Like you're saying, hey, this is AI. You have all of those big dashes. You have all of those things that are screaming AI at you and saying, hey, that's not written by a human. Like I can see that from miles and miles away. But then you're coming into a place where you need to be a real prompt engineer. And then if you write a prompt of 19 pages, if that, then do that. And if that is doing that, and you're really continue on creating those edge cases and that feedback loop of do not ever do those things and being more objective on those things, and never, if you don't know, just don't write, or give me back a pushback about that, or like a lot of different things about how the content is being shaped. I think that this is where you start getting like a much better output out of those platforms. So it's very easy for you to test in a very high level view, test something, and think about you like a chef. You're putting something in your mouth. You're saying it's too salty, it's too sour, it doesn't feel right. It's like completely wrong. You don't know how it was baked. You don't know how the kitchen was actually making it. You just know that it doesn't feel right. It doesn't taste good. So I feel like it's exactly the same with content or with any output that you're getting from AI. If you're a world expert in your niche, you can justify and basically give a grade for that piece of content, saying, is that a masterpiece or is that really junk? And if it's junk, okay, throw it away. Something that you've done on the process is not really giving you the output that you want. But if you learn how to master those outputs, and you know, every single deck that before I'm even submitting a deck for a client, I'm always asking ChatGPT or Gemini, give me a score from 1 to 100 on that. This is the goal. This is the agenda. This is the KPI behind that deck. Give me a score from 1 to 100. And when it gives me a score of 85, okay, how do I get it to 100? And now it gives me feedback, an honest feedback, so to speak, by a PhD level that tells me what is missing, where we are missing out the mark. And then I know how to refine it and how to actually get it to the right place. And I think that as long as you're working with these type of feedback loops, you'll know how to improve it. You'll know how to continue on creating it, as long as you know how to do each and every one of those topics, how to write great content, how to design brilliant images or videos, how to create the right type of output related to strategy insights, or things related to every single one of the things that you're trying to automate. And basically you are judging it from the professional lens of, from the SEO side, it doesn't really meet the best practices, so it won't going to get indexed. No big surprise there if it doesn't follow the rules. But if it does follow the rules and it actually gets with all of your best practices, and you are getting a score that is high enough in your own score with your own way of judging it, then what's the difference if I basically trained it, or I built it, or I crafted it?
I've had that fear that agencies that are fighting it are just going to get left behind very, very quickly as AI gets better. Like, most of them will say, it's not good enough at writing the content. And I'm like, yeah, but if someone else is figuring out how to make it better at writing content and you're just sticking to human writers, then you're going to fall behind very, very quickly. But if there's that resistance to learning it, and I can say I'm guilty myself, right? I don't feel like I have the programmer mindset that I just see from both of you guys, that it's like breaking down the task into individual thoughts and having it work in an order that makes it all processed correctly. And I'm thinking about these agencies that are on our podcast, or the other agencies that have listened in on the podcast, and I'm wanting to give them somewhere to start. And I understand maybe you're taking a bite of something and it tastes wrong, you've messed up, but then the question is how to correct it. And I would love to hear from both of you. If an agency is starting at point zero, like they're trying to figure out how to make their content get a little bit better than their standard AI content that has the M dashes, is it as simple as asking the bots, what did I do wrong here, and why does this look like a computer wrote it? Like, is it just that simple about troubleshooting within the system?
Well, it's that, but it's also investing the time in understanding how to create better prompts and being a continuous learner. To some degree, I think it's going to be a self-preservation move. So, in other words, if your agency isn't using AI, you are going to get left behind, and you're going to be a thing of the past. It's here today, and any agency that hasn't started to embrace it, you better start embracing it now, or somebody else is going to just eat your lunch. I feel that boldly about it. I really think agency owners need to look at all the processes that they do and what their pricing model is, right? So when your customer can now do something that you were doing for them, you're going to lose revenue over that. What are all these kind of do-it-yourself platforms out there that are going to be cheap and inexpensive? How are they going to impact your business, your revenue stream? What's your employee makeup going to be, right? So if AI can do the work of 4 or 5, 6 employees, are you going to let people go because your cost structure has now changed? It is very fascinating. I think COVID has created some opportunities as well, right? So that we now have, I used to require everybody who's in my office. I mean, we had Nerf gun fights. It was fun. And not anymore. Like, I sent them home during COVID. No one wanted to come back. And now I don't care where you live. I can hire you. I don't care if you're in the country even, right? It no longer matters, right? So your employee makeup has changed. Your technology makeup has changed. And just the whole cloud infrastructure has allowed agencies to completely shift their business model. AI is a huge either opportunity or threat, depending on how you look at this. I
appreciate how boldly you state it. Like, this is just the way it is.
Yeah, it's a threat. If you can't find out how to make it an opportunity, bye-bye. So, and that's just not agencies. That's all businesses are gonna have to figure it out.
I really tend to agree. I feel like when you're looking into that as like a threat or an opportunity, one of the biggest problems is that it tanked our EBITDA margin last year, because we were doing such a big, heavy investment into AI, with like appointing a new VP and 3 managers underneath her and 16 AI champions within each and every team that are rolling out all of those things for every single one of those teams. It's a massive investment, and some agencies agencies can afford to do that and are profitable enough to actually get hit in a small way. Some agencies saying, hey, I can't afford to do that. I don't have enough margin to be able to do something like that. And I feel like the investment part of it is very, very real. And a lot of times in your first quarter, in the first 2 quarters, you'll make every single mistake in the book. You're going to be buying the wrong type of subscriptions. You're going to be taking it in a way where you're trying to do a lot of different things that are very, very future thinking, and you're not in the place to solve that type of a big problem before you have the data structure and before you actually have the roles and like understanding who is actually doing what. And if everyone are trying to code the same thing, it doesn't work. And who is actually taking those processes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and prioritizing the resources, and a lot of different things that when you're thinking about how to have, the people that are very native to that and actually really explorer in their nature, and they're coming into those platforms because they like it and they want to explore and they want to learn more, compared to the ones that saying, I'm against it. I don't want it to learn it because I don't think that it's good. I think that it's something that is bad. It's going to be bad for my career as well because I'm going to be replaced. I'm going to build the system that's going to be replacing me. But at the same time, I think that AI basically gives you the superpowers of being 10x more productive if you can kind of evolve together with it. And then if you'll be able to give 10x more output and a better type of output, you'll be much more valuable for the organization. If you'll be able to build those workflows, you'll be super valuable. I took one from the one person that was super, super talented from one team on the, like we've done an acquisition in Denver. We had a brilliant team on podcasting side, and they were doing podcast securing service for their clients. And we took one of their heads of operations and basically said, she's so strong on building those processes and those protocols. I don't want her to only impact a team of 8 or 10 people. I want her to impact a team of 130 people and actually building the automations for so many other things. So you can get improved in your career and kind of being promoted on your career if you'll be able to continue on unlocking more of those sets of skills that are so future looking on how to solve problems and how to productize things in a very different way compared to just selling service. If you want to just continue on selling service in a $200 hour for the creative side of things, we used to be able to do just the concept or the copywriting or maybe some type of things. Today in a $200 I can actually produce 5 or 6 or 17 different assets depending on the level of complexity. It's a very different currency exchange of what we can deliver if you know how to use those systems in the right path. So the value that you can bring to your clients is going to be very different. There are going to be services that are going to be taking a hit. There are going to be services that are actually starting to become much more adventurous for you and bringing much more value. And your clients will always judge you about the cost and the value that you brought. So as long as that coin of like how much did I pay you and what is the value that I got in return, as long as it will make sense, your clients will want you around. As long as it won't, hey, I have here something that cost me a friction of the cost. Why would you pay 10x more than that or 50x more than that if you can have that efficiency saved and basically not spending as much? So I think that as long as you are future thinking, and you do need to invest in it, it's not happening by itself. Like the website that I told you that we created that creates itself, only the 7th version of it actually started to get indexed. In the beginning, nothing was indexed by not by Google, not by Gemini, and because of that, nothing was indexed by ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and Claude, and it failed miserably in the first few weeks that we attempt to solve it. Later on, we found something that was working, doubled down, making it more sophisticated, more sophisticated, more sophisticated, and aha moment saying, holy crap, now it works. But it doesn't happen out of the blue. You need to test, you need to learn, you need to hit a wall, you need to pivot, you need to change, you need to iterate, you need to move it from Gemini to Claude, and Claude saying, hey, it has way too much hallucination, moving it back to Perplexity. Like solving those things till you get it to work. It's not something that happens by itself. And if the agency is not investing heavily into it, I don't think that they will be able to make it work.
Which teams are touching these? You talk about your AI team and making optimizations there, and I think that's great that you've added a headcount there. You also probably have reduced headcount in other places due to the fact that you're able to scale things out so well. But then you talk about this website, and I'm curious, is that the AI team that's touching that completely, or are you bringing that into like the AI team has created processes that your other teams are now managing and optimizing? Because at that point, I start to say your whole operations AI. It's just the level of input that people have is different.
Right. So I think that the AI team is world class on building automations, right? Like that's their job. But they don't know well enough, not SEO, not content writing, not the images that need to go along with that, not the way that it needs to be structured from the UI and UX, and the best practices of how to actually build that website to have the page speed run fast enough so we won't gonna get penalized, and the schema and the frequently asked questions and all of the things that are going into building a website. So I think that if the AI team will just walk by themselves in a silo and they don't know all of the other, top professionals that we have in the organization, they will not be able to build it. But once you have web designers and web developers and UI UX experts and designers and SEO experts and copywriters and art directors and each of them helps you to refine the hell out of the prompt. What are the most critical things? How to actually create. This is where your dominance is actually coming to life, because where top professionals are collaborating together and you have great SEO folks and you have great creative folks and you have great web designers, web developers and all of those things, and they're working in tandem, then hey, this is really important and this is really important, and the AI team would never even think about half of those things, about the metadata and SEO injections into the scripts. They don't know that. They will never be able to even ask the AI, like ChatGPT, what is missing here? Because if you're not guiding ChatGPT to give you the SEO feedback on those specific things and testing the page speed of that, you won't going to know what you don't know. And I feel like once you're collaborating with a lot of really smart people together, that's where the brilliance is actually coming to life. So each and every agency has a domain expertise, and you need to have the domain expertise on one end, and then you need to have the AI experts on the other end, and then collaborating together with a product mindset, not a service mindset, then things are actually starting to come to life in a really nice way.
Tom, I see you shaking your head, so I'm going to give you a second to respond to that. Yeah,
I agree. It's you need to start with the experts who help shape how you're using AI throughout your organization. It's an enhancement. It's as if you get an endless personal assistant that gets to help you do the things and help you think through the strategy that you can already create.
I think you guys are touching on something that we've talked about a lot on the podcast, which is a lot of the agencies that are smaller left bigger agencies. They started their own agency after working for a corporate style agency for 10 years. And they said, I just felt like I could provide a better service. And they felt like account managers were maybe 20 years old and didn't know the SEO service that well, but were trying to maintain the relationship. And inevitably, when you scale, you need more labor. And that labor doesn't always line up with the high expertise that you typically have when you start your own agency. So there was this gap between the quality of like a large agency that's scaling and a small agency that's super flexible. And as we're going through this conversation, you talk about having all the experts align and using AI to match up their expertise to make sure that you're bridging those gaps. It feels like, for a scary thought to me, is those small agencies that are relying on their customization and their flexibility should be cautious about what's coming and be flexible and invest in their learning, because AI is bridging that gap and allowing larger agencies to take really high quality strategy and match it up with their really high output. Do you feel like there's the advantage for small agencies being flexible is being, I guess, eliminated at this point by the use of AI and high level strategy?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. I don't know that I think it's gonna eliminate them. I think they're just gonna embrace it at some point, right? So I'd also think of it as what's that learning curve or adoption curve. I think what Gilad and I are saying is we're at the early stage of the adoption curve. Like, we are jumping in on it, and eventually everybody else will start to jump in on it, or they'll disappear. And smaller agencies, like, we have a lot more flexibility. We can pivot and turn. We can compress what it is we're going to go after, right? So there are plenty of agencies, all they do is branding. Like, if I could just do web dev, SEO, Google Ads, and now GEO, like, that's the core of what I'm amazing at. If you want me to put together a direct mail campaign, I can probably do it, but it's not my strength. So I think the agencies will just focus more on their niche, whether it's their vertical or what their service delivery is going to be.
Then I'll tie this question back to the customer, because I think that that's ultimately what makes the decision of buying or not, right? I do think that there's, for the smaller agencies, the smaller companies, local companies specifically, working with a big agency that doesn't necessarily have the face even if they have all the data to back up that they're the right one, sometimes people want to work with someone they can look at and trust or even blame if something goes wrong, right? How do you think that the smaller companies are going to be able to compete when one company using an AI tool is pumping out 40, 40 blogs in a month, and then there's a small company maybe doing their 2 blogs trying to keep up with that from a local standpoint? Do you believe that AI is going to let those small companies compete with the large companies at scale? It seems like there's a risk of being monopolized, like really that there's more visibility on the bigger companies that can really produce more at a faster pace.
I think to some degree, small companies like working with small companies, right? So, I run a small agency. We have 22, 25 employees at any given time. And I work with small businesses, right? So it's a totally different experience than working with a Yext or a huge national company. I don't know, it's just a different experience. So, and I think, when you look at customer retention, it's a different game, right? They're going to churn, 60% of their customers every year? I'm not going to churn that, right? Because I have customers that have been with me for 29 years, right? Now, AI is just going to make us more efficient and better at our jobs.
Yeah, and I have to say that I feel like the vast majority of content in 2025 was written by AI, whether we like it or not. That's the reality. That's from newsrooms, that's from top publications, that's from agencies, that's from freelancers, that's from brands in general. I don't think that the agencies are fighting back about should I use AI or how advanced my AI usage should be. If you know that like in Q4, one of the researchers showed that 74% of content worldwide was generated by AI. Like it's that extreme. So I don't think that the agencies will fight back against it. And there is no problem to ask ChatGPT now to write me 40 articles. Like it's not a big advantage to say it's not about the amount of content that you're writing, because the amount, I can just prompt it and poof, here we go. I got you another new article. And it took me like 30 seconds and no problem. The question is, what is the level of depth of that piece of content? What is the level of that part is part of the bigger strategy? Do you want to actually create 40 pieces of content every day because you're going to be starting to do cannibalization for all of the other things related to SEO, for example, that's going to be hindering your authenticity based on all of those engines? So you need to make sure that it won't going to be hurting one another on the strategy. You need to make sure that it's set in a really, really smart way. You need to be the architect of the strategy. You need to be the taster of every single one of those pieces of content, and you need to make sure that this is something that is being built right. So I don't think that you'll have...
To me, it's about the results that it gets too, right? So at the end of the day, you're doing all this marketing so that you can make a sale or generate a lead to make a sale. So it's what's the result has whatever marketing tactic you've deployed, whether it's content creation or video, whether it's SEO, GEO, it doesn't really matter. It's can you measure the result and effectiveness of that marketing campaign or content or strategy. It's really where it comes back to. And I think the agencies that are going to be able to make the correlation between we did X, that generated Y, and you closed it. And so from the whatever thousands of dollars you're paying me a month, you made this much money. And here's what your conversion is. And the more that agencies can make those correlations between their activity and their bill and the customer's result and income, the better off it's going to be.
I completely agree there, but I think that one of the things that's going to be very hard on content writing in specific is that it takes time till it gets indexed, and it gets time even when it was indexed, and now we are in the top number 15 for that. Now we are number 10. Now we are number 8. Till you're actually getting to the top 3 or top 5, that can take you some time, and that can take a lot of work. So even pieces of content, the best pieces of content that we actually wrote last year, for example, were probably in Q3, not in Q4, and it's not because we didn't write great things in Q4, it's because those things will get indexed in Q1.
And I think most clients understand that it's not an instant gratification. You want instant gratification, go buy Google Ads. But you're looking at the long term and what's going to be your best ROI. One of the AI content pieces that we generate the most of, I'm going to call them city pages or town pages. So it's a tool that we use within WordPress. We essentially build one page, spin the context on, and then come up with every little town name organized by state that you should rank in. we picked up we had a lead that came in yesterday that we met with, that they're like, oh, you're not in our town. They went to one of our town pages that was like web designer, super small town in Missouri, and found us, right? So that's AI generated content. It's an SEO strategy, plain and simple. I mean, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages that are town service pages. It's AI, right? If I had to manually build those pages, couldn't possibly do it. So it's just a different spin on what content is. Content doesn't have to be a blog.
Yeah, I appreciate that you bring up the fact that it's like the strategy matters so much. It's not just the volume. Like both of you guys are kind of like the quality of the content is going to make the difference on actually generating opportunity, not just volume of content. Otherwise, everyone would be flooding it with everything they possibly could. I want to take the pivot away from like if quality was being done well by many agencies, right? If everyone was doing really good, high quality AI content, the question I kind of come to is what's the differentiators now? So my thought is, what does authority mean in a world where AI is generating answers and not just ranking pages? And how are you leveraging authority in an AI optimized world for your customers to make sure that they're ranking?
So it's taking that content and getting it posted other places, right? It's that backlink authority. And then there's lots of ways to create that authority. This podcast is authority, right? So Gilad and I both are going to get a link back to our site, and that's creating authority and it's creating reputation. To some degree, I like it. So I just published a new book. It's called, my gosh, I just blanked out on the title of my book. That's crazy. It's called They're Looking for You Marketing. And it was, it was AI assisted writing, right? We collaborated internally and got AI to help us. And I highly recommend that you read it. But that is an authority piece, right? It's how do you gain credibility? So whether that's reviews on Google or you produced a book, instead of handing out a logo pen, you gave them a book. You get lots of backlinks, you're quoted in articles, right? If you think about who is an authority, people who talk and people respected and quoted by other respected sources have authority. And that's, it's like you go to a trade show. Who's the big vendor at a trade show? And I was just talking to a buddy yesterday, and he's doing some trade shows. He's trying to sell to school districts. And I said, well, the trade show you're going to, like, have you ever thought about just having a celebrity? Like, what if you could get Lou Ferrigno to, like, show up and get your picture taken with him? Like, he's like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. But it's leveraging off another authority. And Koa, that's why your backlink plan works, right? It's how you get people linked back to you.
There's a question, I think, and Gilad, I'll let you go right after I say this, but there's a question of like, you could produce 10,000 backlinks so quickly with AI by just connecting to people who have their own PBNs and other things to set up. And to a certain extent, some of the volume-based marketing agencies that I work with have leveraged strategies like that. They know that they can connect to PBNs and get results. The battle is whether or not those are truly going to be lasting results, or whether they're buying like a little bit of time before things get reset or an update shakes them. Gilad, I want to hear from you too on your thoughts on how you're generating authority today and what you feel like is like the lasting way to go about it, the really building longevity for your customers.
For sure. So we are investing in AIO and GEO in a crazy way. We have a research team, a lab team that is only in charge of that, and basically reverse engineering the algorithm of each and every one of the bigger bots, like what Grok likes compared to ChatGPT, compared to Perplexity and Claude, and even within Gemini, like Gemini 2.5 compared to 3, what they prefer on each and every one of those things. Like we are really doing it like this type of a PhD on that. And as part of that, like it's all based on authority. Like you can be ranked number 1 on Google on a specific query, but then on ChatGPT, you're going to be still, if you're going to be mentioned, you're going to be mentioned number 8 out of 9 in the list. And you're saying like, okay, how the hell does that factor my credibility online? And then basically what we saw is that each and every one of those engines was fed by a various different types of ways of creating the hierarchy of what's important and what's more relevant and what's going to be a better outcome, what is a better result for the query that was asked. And with that, what we saw is that the site is really important, obviously, how the site is being built, how the schema, like a lot of technical things that are really frequently asked questions, a lot of these things that you just have to mark V next to and make sure that it's going to be readable and easy to use for those LLMs. But on top of that, they give a lot of credibility to PR on very large publications. They give a lot of credibility to podcasts, like external links from meaningful sources. They give a lot of credibility to links. They give a lot of credibility to videos on YouTube, for example, that are actually exact match to your specific thing, and how many views did you have for that. They are giving a lot of credibility for things related to Quora discussions that you will mention, or Reddit discussion that you will mention, and in similar topics and things of that nature. They're giving a lot of credibility to how threads on LinkedIn, or polls on LinkedIn that was actually mentioning your brand when you're thinking about these type of listicles of like a list of like the best agencies to do X or Y or things of that nature. You're looking on a lot of AIO growth hacking tactics when you're thinking about Wikipedia, when you're thinking about Perplexity pages, when you're thinking about so many different things. Bing is super important because ChatGPT is basically based most of the things about it on Bing and not on Google because of their marketing partnership with Microsoft. So Bing Your Pages, for example, is important for ChatGPT. Like a lot of things that you never even think about when you're thinking about the common thread of how you're building authority. Basically, the answer when you're looking on the full digital 360, like if I didn't have a PR agency, I bought a PR agency last year because I saw that it was coming to become a very meaningful thing. And then every single article that I get on Forbes and mention on Forbes or mention on entrepreneur.com or on VentureBeat, all of those type of publications, Business Insider and things of that nature, that are just quoting me for something, that we are doing this type of a news jacking of giving me the microphone to talk about something that is being covered on the news, and it just even having a small quote, not even a link back to my website, and poof, you're seeing another 32 answers jumping in the same week on ChatGPT that I now got index on, because if I'm an authority on all of those very well respected places, I'm getting a much higher score and relevance on that specific topic. So when you're thinking about your digital strategy, it's not just your website. Your website is one thing. It's an anchor. It's important, but it's one out of so many things that you need to optimize in order to really get on the right track. Your Trustpilot is really important. Your G2 reviews or Clutch reviews, or like all of those, like all of the things that are basically ranking you and giving your reviews and things of that nature online. Basically, the AI is kind of combining all of those things together, blending it, and understand how relevant you are compared to your biggest competitors, and who is the best to suggest on that specific query. And it happened in a matter of split seconds. So the better you're ranked on all of the different places, and how active you are on each and every one of those platforms, that's kind of how your authority is being built. And obviously, if you're working with very large brands and things of that nature, the human eye will judge, oh, wow, they worked with Google. They were the agency behind Microsoft Copilot. Holy crap, like that's the agency that I want to choose as a user. But when you think about how the LLMs are judging you, it's based on all of the trust signals that I just mentioned that are kind of 360 view of your Instagram and LinkedIn and Reddit and Quora, and like all of the different things that are happening on your brand, on behalf of your brand, on YouTube and on Wikipedia, and on all of those trust signals basically that are being combined, congested together to give you a score.
Yeah, it is very fascinating how just the concept of the mentions and not the backlinks is also, it has become so important with the ChatGPTs. So
yeah, it's interesting that it really is the brand. When you talk about authority, it's no longer just the links. It's absolutely a factor, but it's like everyone can get links. Now, who do you differentiate? It's everyone else that's branched out further than just links. Like it's now like a baseline of playing the game, instead of the differentiator that it once was.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, we're out of time. I have a ton more questions I want to ask you guys. We may have to do part 2 of this podcast recording, because I do think we would love to break it down into actionable tasks that some of these agencies could take to get their feet wet when they're starting to make some of the changes that we've discussed today. Tom and Gilad, thank you so much for your time. This has been a great episode of SEO On Air. We'll see you next time.